All I want for Christmas is to not have to hear from Stephen Miller, and that is clearly the case with most of the country because this man gets kicked off TV so much, I'm surprised they even let him on. And it's not just that Stephen Miller gets kicked off of TV when he's not making appearances on air, he's melting down, and when he is, it's even worse. I don't know why Stephen Miller continues to go on any network and scream. I guess it's just because he's so obsessed, and someone's got to propagandize for the president with a 35% approval rating. Donald Trump is underwater. Stephen Miller thinks he can fix it, but he can't. He just melts down on TV. We're going to get into it all and why he's so furious on this beautiful Christmas day. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. And it's a pretty nice Christmas present. Now, before we get into Stephen Miller, I want to set the stage for why he's so upset, the angry little elf that he is, with Donald Trump's underwater approval rating and so much else that's going wrong in this administration.
In the latest AP polling, Trump is minus 36 on the economy. 31% of the country approves of Trump on the economy. 67% disapproves. So Trump on the economy is underwater by 36 points. On healthcare, it's even worse. He's underwater by 40 points. And that poll ended before today, which is the deadline for people to sign up for their health plans under the ACA, which is tens of millions of people in this country. And those plans, the prices of those plans, the premium costs are skyrocketing in price because of what Trump and the Republicans did in his so-called big, beautiful bill. What they did to destroy healthcare premiums in terms of how expensive they are. What they did, that overt policy change they made that costs everybody's health insurance premiums to go through the roof, that starts hitting people officially today. Trump and the Republicans caused it. They have not been able to fix it. And Trump is already 40 points underwater on healthcare even before that starts hitting people.
The polling could not be much worse for Donald Trump this Christmas, and that's an incredible gift. People waking up to the fact that China doesn't pay the tariffs, that Donald Trump's illegal deportation plan is illegal, immoral, evil, and idiotic. Waking up to the fact that our president is in the Epstein files, that he's been covering it up the whole time. Waking up to the fact that maybe progressive Democrats advocating Medicare for all are better than insane conservatives who want to build a statue of Charlie Kirk and then give trillions of dollars in handouts to billionaires. That is what we are seeing this holiday season, and that is a gift that I'm very excited about. But clearly, Donald Trump isn't, because before we get into Stephen Miller, I want to start where the president is having his mind at today, and it's not great with this post. Trump melted down on Truth Social, writing, "Merry Christmas to all, including the radical left scum that is doing everything possible to destroy our country, but are failing badly. We are no longer having open borders, men and women's sports, a bunch of other slop that he screams about. He's saying tariffs have given us trillions of dollars. It's not true. He says we're respected again. Not sure about that. Perhaps like never before. Yeah, that's not the case. God bless America, President DJT." Considering that I am radical left scum, it was really nice of Donald to give me a shout out in his Truth Social Christmas post. You can be radical left scum as well. If you're radical left scum, you are a friend and family on this channel. I can tell you that much. And a Merry Christmas to you for that. But of course, it's not just Donald Trump melting down. Stephen Miller is just an extension of the president, or really, at this point, the other way around. So when he was on Fox looking at those terrible poll numbers, he decided he had had enough of them and wanted to scream and melt down.
And you listed a lot of those things, and you know, the lower inflation and gas prices are key to all of that. But there is polling that shows that there remains some frustration among consumers or voters. What does the White House have to do to reach those people or make changes so that those people feel better? And obviously they're getting lied to by the media, which has always been a problem for Republicans. But what can the White House do to either fix things so that they feel better or convince them that the situation is better?
Well, I think the most important point of all, and look, the polling shows overwhelming support for President Trump across every single issue and dimension. But the most important point to hammer over and over again, under Trump, 1, no inflation. Biden comes in.
Right.
Devastates the economy. We have double-digit inflation overall from when Biden entered to when Biden left, Prices went up 30% in 4 years. Donald Trump comes back in, and inflation is down to near benchmark rates of 2% within months? How's that even possible? I mean, we knew the man was an economic wizard. But Charlie, how do you get inflation from 30% to almost 2% in a few months? He defied what everybody said was possible.
When even Fox is confronting the fact and confronting people within this administration of the fact that Donald Trump's poll numbers are at historic lows, you know we have reached a bad point. And also, why does Stephen Miller have to talk like this in the thing? It's so segmented and weird. It's like he rehearsed it looking in the mirror, thinking that he had like a cape on. Stephen Miller is the type of adult man to walk around with a cape at home and to try to feel powerful. God, both him and his wife, they're just so weird, aren't they? But it's important to remember that Stephen Miller is quite the self-obsessed guy. I bring this up every time I can. I think it's important to know about him. But this is a person who keeps a recording of every time he is on television, every time he's on the radio, every time he's in print. He loves himself, which I don't really get, because who could love Stephen Miller? Which is why when Barry Weiss decided to pull the 60-minute segment on CCOT, she did so because the staff wouldn't do an interview with Stephen Miller. She wanted both perspectives represented, but who wants Stephen Miller? And him getting kicked out of that segment clearly has him a little upset still, because listen to what he had to say about 60 Minutes.
And every one of those producers at 60 Minutes engaged in this revolt, fire them. Clean house, fire them. That's what I say, Charlie.
Is this not the most insecure person in the entire country? That's so embarrassing. Everybody at 60 Minutes should be fired because they wouldn't let me come on the air and be racist. It's just so embarrassing if you're Stephen Miller. Like, it's the holiday season. What do we do? Why are we always screaming? Why is he always yelling? Why must he always be yelling? Why must everyone in this administration always be yelling and lecturing us about things that they are in no position to lecture us about? I feel like the narrative around liberals and progressives all the time is that we talk down to people. But Stephen Miller is currently on the biggest cable news network there is, yelling about how we don't understand the numbers and the media is lying, and he's speaking from the biggest media network, so that doesn't really make sense. But the Republicans, conservatives, they want to lecture us. They want to tell us our worldview is wrong. You see all these conservative women like Erica Kirk tell you that you need to, get pregnant yesterday and walk around your house cooking sourdough bread barefoot. And it's like, then you should do that. Someone said that, they never understood why Charlie Kirk always advocated women not to go to college and to not be heard from until they met his wife. And it's like, yeah, Candace Owens, if you want to tell women to, be in your natural state and you shouldn't be working, then maybe stop the podcast. Megyn Kelly, same thing. These people lecture us on the worldview that we should have and how Western culture is being taken over, even though I don't really think they have a good idea of what that is. They're not very literate individuals. And then they want to complain that we're the ones speaking down to them. Something I heard in the Christmas spirit that got me thinking. All these Republicans are always talking about quoting the Bible. We should have the Bible in Congress, and we got to have the Bible in schools, and they're doing the Ten Commandments in Texas public schools. They wanted to do that. Do you know who conservatives never seem to quote? Jesus. They never quote the teachings of Jesus, now do they? Because what did Jesus say? Love your neighbor, especially those in jail. Let's feed the hungry. People are sick, let's take care of them. Have you ever heard a conservative quote Jesus Christ? Have you? They talk about Leviticus a lot. You got to give your pastor 3 turtles and erect a statue of Charlie Kirk because he hated black women apparently. But do you ever hear them, especially on this holiday season, quote Jesus? Jesus said it's easier for a rich man to, or easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle, right, than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I've seen these mega churches, they don't pay taxes, pretty extravagant. These pastors riding around on private jets, that doesn't seem a lot like Jesus to me. These people really like to cherry pick and to misunderstand. They completely do. And so I think Christmas, all the Christian conservatives, that's an oxymoron. They do their own version of Christianity, which is bigoted. Maybe they should start thinking about the teachings of Christ, not just the passages in the Bible that they think should allow them to get away with whatever they want. Remember, it was slave owners and plantations who used the Bible to justify their brutal practice of owning other people. Did Jesus ever say that's what you should do? Another person should be your property? No. Never look to Jesus, do they? It's very interesting. I think we should keep that in mind. Next time your crazy aunt or your MAGA uncle or your Charlie Kirk loving sister or brother or mom or dad is talking about us needing to have Christian values, ask them some of Jesus's values. And which of those Donald Trump represents? The conservative movement, stealing in the new year 24 million people's health care. What do they represent? Because it's not just about presents on this day. It's about love and giving. And, Santa doesn't leave a bill, right? He nibbles at some cookies and has a little milk. The man needs some energy, let's be real, but he doesn't leave a bill. He doesn't ask you for anything. And what does MAGA want? Bootstraps. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And they say they love this holiday. They say that liberals tell you can't say Merry Christmas. First of all, that's not a thing. Merry Christmas. But conservatives seem like they don't want you to take anything out of the lesson of the day, both the secular and the religious. It's a day about giving, generosity. What lesson did Scrooge learn in The Christmas Carol, the Muppet Christmas Carol, specifically the greatest Christmas movie of all time? You could certainly say that generosity is the most important thing, that greed is worse and hurts the people around you. It's worse for society. But I think Scrooge also learned another lesson, that greed does not just impose this burden upon the rest of the world that you cause, but it keeps you in a prison as well. When he wouldn't let Bob Cratchit and the bookkeepers have a little extra scoop of coal, he was also sitting in the cold. He refused to light the lamps in his house. Why? Because he thought it would save him money. It did save him money. But he sat in the darkness. Generosity, love, a giving spirit is what not just only brings light to the world, but to yourself as well. Why don't Republicans reflect on that ever? Why is it all just hoarding wealth for Elon Musk and Larry Ellison to push us propaganda on behalf of Benjamin Netanyahu? Why is that? Why is the favored nation of Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, these big Christians, bombing churches? Why does Israel do that? Why do they bomb churches, Christian churches? They killed 95% of the Christian Palestinians. I know that may be a tangent for this holiday season, but I think it's an important lesson to consider. And I think that Stephen Miller could use a little bit of that education and a little less time on TV. And that is certainly what I am hoping for this holiday season. And if you want to support us talking about that on this show, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Also, this is a little bit of the different setup. I'm visiting my family for Christmas. We're hoteling it up. But I do want to show y'all, because I'm not just in a white shirt, Christmas PJs. Oh, pretty cool, huh? Pretty fun. Thank you for having me in your house on Christmas. Thank you for spending some time with the show. What we have done this year has been amazing. I love you all. Merry Christmas. A Happy New Year. Watch the Muppet Christmas Carol. And until next time, I'll see y'all soon.